Fed.
If you are the big tree, we are the small axe, sharpened to cut you down, well sharp, ready to cut you down.
Starting the California news section from California Watch, Which Colleges Restrict Free Speech, gives a synopsis of a report put out by the Foundation for Individual Rights in Education on 390 universities in the U.S. that have varying levels of free speech restrictions and were graded as such, with a red, yellow, or green light. A red light means the university's policy clearly and substantially limits freedom of speech or bars public access to speech policies on the web. Shockingly, or perhaps not so shockingly, 67% of the universities reviewed were given a red light, and only 3% were given a green light for freedom of speech, with 0 universities in California receiving a green light.
Next up from California Watch, should community colleges cut off lingering students? Facing Governor Brown's proposed $400 million cut with a 10% or $10 fee increase, Jack Scott, Chancellor of the 112 campus community college system, proposes saving $235 million by giving new students priority registration, capping taxpayer-subsidized units, and limiting repeat courses. There are limits on course repeating. Nonetheless, community college used to be free in this state, and prices for state education have skyrocketed in recent years to $26 per unit. Class availability is also worse than ever. And what about avid learners or those enrolled to defer oppressive student loan industry payments? People have legitimate reasons for not completing classes. All sorts of withdrawal deadlines exist and hoops to jump through just to do that. I can see people getting robbed blind by education in the future. Hell, we already have been.
From the Marin Independent Journal, 2 West Marin women arrested in blockade of SmartMeter trucks. It details the ongoing movement by activists and concerned citizens who are opposing the SmartMeter installation being done by PG&E. Katharina Sandozel and Kristen McCrory were arrested by Marin County Sheriff's Department deputies. The women were handcuffed and taken to the Sheriff's Office in Point Reyes Station, where they were issued citations for impeding traffic and released. If you'd like to learn more about how wireless signals of different frequencies affect our physical and mental being, we recommend a book by Dr. Nick Begich called Controlling the Human Mind, The Technologies of Political Control or Tools for Peak Performance. You may be appalled by what you learn of technologies that have been kept from the general public's knowledge but have been known in the scientific community for years.
Now from the Bay Citizen, dozens of SF cops with misconduct records. San Francisco Police Department announced that 75 employees, 61 of which are cops, have misconduct records that need to be disclosed to defendants. The other 14 of the 75 are doing desk work or on medical leave, so obviously have been dealt with severely, while 20 others have been fired, retired, or quit. I know these numbers are just the tip of the iceberg. This revelation follows last year's scandal when SFPD drug lab closed permanently after 600 cases were dismissed amidst cocaine and Oxycontin skimming under a former lab tech who had a domestic violence conviction. SFPD Chief Gascon's best defense is their misconduct levels are lower than most departments across America.
From News 10 KXTV, Stockton police officer busted on possession for sale of steroids covers the arrest of Darren Fagundes. He was bailed out quickly and was put on administrative leave. According to Stockton Police Department spokesman Officer Pete Smith, society holds the people who protect them to a higher standard. Absolutely, it's disappointing when one of our own falls subject to an investigation and these kinds of allegations are brought against them. Unfortunately, these types of investigations are not done often enough. For the government at various levels and in different agencies has been caught numerous times for not only selling illegal drugs, but shipping them into our country from places like Colombia and Afghanistan.
Yeah, it's one way to protect and serve drug agendas. We got next from NBC San Diego. Oh my God, cops can read our texts. California Supreme Court ruled 5-2 that cell phones can be searched without a warrant within 90 minutes of an arrest. Cell phones are now equated with clothing, but dissenting Justice Catherine Werdegarder argued that this is highly intrusive. So encrypt your phone or put a simple password to help thwart the invasion of your privacy if you happen to be abducted by the police state.
California Watch, Surface Water's Toxic, scientists say, summarizes a report released by the California Water Board on the toxicity of the surface waters in 992 different sites. The report details the persistence of dozens of toxic chemicals that end up in our drinking water. These chemicals include many that are banned by the European Union and/or the United States, the majority of which are known neurotoxins and seep into surface water from agricultural and industrial runoff.
Next up from San Jose Mercury News, Appellate Court, Santa Cruz organic dill farmer has right to sue neighboring farm for pesticide drift. After Whole Foods rejected Larry Jacobs' crop, which tested positive for pesticides, he learned that evaporated chemicals from neighboring farm was the cause. The pesticide user Western Farm Service, now owned by Crop Production Services, claims it didn't break any law, but California's 6th Appellate District Court in San Jose ruled Jacobs can sue. The case will likely be appealed by WFS. They argue not being responsible for what happens after pesticides are, quote, safely applied. Actually, there is no safe way of applying pesticides to our food, land, and water. By the way, chemical foods, aka the Green Revolution, started during World War II and originate with converting chemical weapons into profitable markets in the post-war economy. Watch The Future of Food free online and learn more about the origins of our industrial agriculture.
From Investigative Reporting Workshop, studies show pesticides harming Salinas Valley children expands on some of the results coming in from a 12-year-long study done by the Chamaco Center in Salinas. These studies have begun to paint a frightening picture of the way that pesticides are affecting children and pregnant women, especially in farming communities. Some of the effects include worse mental development, increased likelihood of developmental disorders, and poorer attention spans.
Now from Mother Jones, will the IRS extinguish medical marijuana? IRS Code 280E bans tax reductions for trafficking in controlled substances. In 2005, there was a brush with dispensaries being taxed to death via 280E. California Congressman Peter Stark helped to pass 280E and may sponsor a bill to prevent this. More federal codified nonsense is not smart. We should reaffirm our 10th Amendment rights. The war on drugs is illegal, and we should cease and desist all cooperation with this decades-old technique of whittling away our civil liberties. Anyways, I honestly saw this coming. They could use this FDA to wreak havoc similarly as well.
From the Contra Costa Times, Cash No Longer King, an interesting story covering the recent decision of the Discovery Bay Community Services District Board to, quote, ban cash transactions for all services, including water bills and park reservations. They claim they made this decision for the safety of the workers who have to handle the cash, but some maintain that it is a retaliatory measure against people submitting anonymous records requests. Either way, it is a very drastic and concerning move to liberty lovers everywhere who do not want to see a cashless society implemented.
More on similar trend from the San Francisco Chronicle, Golden Gate Bridge set to shut down toll booths. Also from PC Mag, 34 jobs will be lost which welcome visitors, provide directions, and basic security. Saving $19.2 million in the first 8 years, the system would bill registered owners. Definitely a new form of intrusion into your life and an ability to use cash or remain anonymous. Not sure what would happen with car rentals, borrowed vehicles, or other gray areas.
From the LA Times, state bankruptcy, the best financial fix? Follows the filing by the state of California for federal bankruptcy protection and the debates surrounding whether states should be allowed to file for bankruptcy or not, and whether it is a good economic decision for California. Proponents say it is the only way out of this fiscal crisis, but opponents say it will only serve to cut state services, benefits, and pensions. Still, these economic problems have a root cause, and that is the Federal Reserve fiat money system based on fractional reserve banking practices. Until these vital issues are addressed, all the band-aids in the world won't fix our economy for good.
Yeah, you gotta get to the root of the problem. In this case, was said to be a root of all evil. Next up from the Sacramento Bee, Sacramento Council approves crash tax for non-city residents. Sacramento votes 6-5 to tax out-of-towners $495 for fire department services or $2,275 for medical airlifts. They expect insurance companies to determine who pays. Estimated to generate $300,000 to $500,000 a year, this desperate and pathetic attempt at acquiring revenues has been outlawed in Florida, Pennsylvania, and a few other states. All the while, countless dollars are pissed away in prisons, wars, and other nonsense instead of education, public transportation, and other tools to be independent.